Hear me? Wave your arms if you can't. Of course, if you can't hear me, you can't know that I'm asking you to do that, but oh, darn it, I wanted to welcome those two people before they left. But anyway, I'm glad you guys are here. Today we got Workbook Lesson 172, and one of the lessons is I am among the ministers of God. And we've got new music today. Hopefully that won't incur a copyright issue. All right, I think we've got everything ready. Lesson 172. This is a lesson summary of 153 and 154. In my defenselessness, my safety lies. Lesson 154 is, I am among the ministers of God. God is but love. Therefore, so am I. You may remember from yesterday's reading, we're supposed to encase everything we say in these lessons, 173 through 180. They're all encased in the idea of God is but love, and therefore so am I. In my defenselessness, my safety lies. God is but love, therefore so am I. I'm among the ministers of God. God is but love, and therefore so am I. We begin and end each session. I'm sorry, this is going to get so repetitious because I just anticipated what was written, and I shouldn't have ad-libbed. It's not an ad-lib when it's what's written on the next page, I bet. We will begin and end each session with the theme behind this review lesson, which is God is but love, and therefore so am I. The central idea from 153 is, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. Consider how this lesson clarifies and enhances the theme that God is but love, and therefore so am I. Next, review the central theme from lesson 154, which is, I am among the ministers of God. How does this lesson clarify and enhance the theme that God is but love, and so am I? Remember to end your session by repeating the general theme that God is but love, and therefore so am I. Throughout your day, remember the words, but go beyond the words. Share the experience of being that love, and you will create a great day for yourself and your world. And so we thought we'd try something a little bit different today. In the past, for these reviews, this is the fifth out of the reviews. I've gone back and I've read the prior lessons, but the emphasis of God is love, and therefore so am I, and the suggestion that going deeper within might be helpful, I thought we'd take a little bit of time just to jump straight into the meditation and actually find some silence today, and make a space for some silence here in this talking platform of audio. So it may feel weird, and people may come and go, and people may wonder why there's quiet, but today I'm going to leave us in the quiet for about 3 or 4 minutes. It's going to feel like eternity on this. But hopefully, if you're practicing some meditation at other times in the day, it's starting to feel comfortable. And the feeling of being comfortable in the silence and letting your ideas pass just like clouds, I think can help us get a deeper version of this message in the way that the book intends it. So, if you're down for the adventure, here we go.
Lee, just before you start, I
Go
just
for
want
it,
to get a
Papa.
clarification. And I wasn't in on that previous conversation that you might have had with Tom about this, but
Because
the
you were
music
tardy.
that's right, exactly. But no buts. Um, the music will continue,
No, it
so
won't. I can stop
it.
the music. I'm in control
Well,
of the
I'm
music.
not sure that that's necessary because it's to me it's kind of like a confirmation to someone else who may not think that electronically that they are connected for some reason.
Hmm.
I would leave the music in, and still I
Yeah?
consider that silence because it's background.
Yeah,
That's up to
I
you.
agree.
You agree?
Yeah, I think
All
that
right.
you should leave the music going. I mean, not
I'll
real
take that
loud, but just
guidance.
in the background.
If it sounds like it's at a good level, Adriana said it to the level that she thinks is perfect. I can't tell. But if you guys think it's great, then I'm down for leaving it. It's easier to leave it going than it is to change it. No problem. All right. Let's take a deep breath together. We'll take 3 deep breaths, and I'll repeat the idea of the day and lead us into the silence. And I'll mute my father. No offense, Dad. And we're going to take some time. I have the chat up in the video. So, Adriana, if you want to enter into the chat what we're doing, or anybody can, those will show up on the video. And we'll have a good sense of anybody joining at any time in any medium will understand what's going on. God is but love, and therefore so am I. Whatever surface is supporting you right now, let's remember that that's connected to the source. That's connected to the source of all of us. At a deep level, we are all connected. So let's take some deep breaths together and get in a mental state where we share the oneness yet again and come home. God is but love, and therefore so am I. Take a nice deep breath. And when your lungs are full, hold that breath and keep that cool air in there as it warms up. Now exhale with control, a nice slow exhale, getting every last bit of air out of your lungs. And now take nice deep breath in, beautiful fresh air filling your lungs all the way up, and hold that breath in. Let your body do its job. Everything's working just like it's supposed to. Take another nice deep breath in. Hold that breath. And exhale with control. All the air out. Every last bit out of your lungs. And let's take another nice deep breath, the deepest breath of the day. Breathe all the air in. Hold that nice deep breath. And you can return to normal breathing now. Nice and relaxed. Everything working just like it's supposed to. Today's lesson. God is but love, and therefore so am I. I am among the ministers of God, learning my lessons, doing my job, serving humanity as it serves me in my greatest good. God is but love, and therefore so am I. In my defenselessness, my safety lies. I have nothing to defend because I'm not being attacked. There is no attack. It is all an illusion because God is but love, and therefore so am I. In silence, think how holy is your purpose, how secure you rest, untouchable within its light. God's ministers have chosen that the truth be with them. Who is holier than they? Who could be surer that their happiness is fully guaranteed? And who could be more mightily protected? What defense could possibly be needed by the ones who are among the chosen ones of God, by His election and by their own as well? It's the function of God's ministers to help their brothers and sisters choose as they have done. God has elected all, but few have come to realize that His will is but their own. And while you fail to teach what you've learned, salvation waits. Darkness holds the world in grim imprisonment, but light has come to you, and your escape has been accomplished. You will not see the light until you offer it to all of your brothers, but as they take it from your hands, you will recognize it as your own. Tom has told us this many times. Salvation can be thought of as a game that happy children play. It was designed by one who loves his children and who would replace their fearful toys with joyous games, which teach them that the game of fear is gone. His game instructs in happiness because there's no loser. Everyone who plays must win, and in his winning is the gain to everyone insured. The game of fear is gladly laid aside when children come to see the benefits salvation brings. God is but love, therefore so am I. Today's lesson. In my defenselessness, safety lies. I am among the ministers of God. Today, keep this thought with you. God is but love, and therefore so am I. Thank you for joining me this morning. Appreciate you being here. It's helpful to go with mighty companions on this journey and know that you are not alone. We're here every single morning. Stay with us as we heal the world, one morning at a time, from our little part of the world. Thank you for being with us. Have a wonderful day, everybody. So this morning we thought we'd keep it nice and short and sweet and get focused and take care of business. And I hope that this meditation was helpful to you. It seemed like the right thing to do. Hopefully you'll feel comfortable enough offering some feedback, because we're just trying to figure out how to make the most of our time here. And this one seemed like a good one to do today. And we're 172 days into the year. Boy, oh boy. Not that much left in this month either. How's everybody doing today? Papa, how are you? We're the only ones up on the stage. Anybody else want to come up and join us? What did you say, sweetie? Oops. Sorry, guys.
I really love having that moment of silence. And the thought that comes to mind as I was going to say that is, it enables every single person who is in this room to participate in an equal way. whether you're in the audience, whether you're on the stage. There are some surface thoughts that we may have, but when we go into this silence, it makes us all equal participants and part of the bigger picture. If God is but love, I have to be that too, because we're all one. And it helps me focus on the most important things about life that we do every day. And that love, when it's applied to every one of those experiences, brings us more of the benefits of having this kind of relationship with God, and knowing that God's Holy Spirit is firmly connected to me eternally. It's always there. The advice I need is always there from the Holy Spirit, who understands my entire condition. It's not as if I would say, "Oh, excuse me, Holy Spirit, I don't need you for this. I know how to deal in money situations." That's not your shtick. And nothing could be further from the truth. We don't need to defend our choice. No one really can attack it and win that attack, because they're attacking with nothing. There's nothing that is counter to the supreme love that we have, that we share with God. And those kinds of thoughts are hard to express sometimes with words. In fact, the words come to us occasionally. And in our silence, we allow that direct communication between the Holy Spirit and our sentient anchor. The thing that keeps us anchored is that relationship we have right here with the Holy Spirit. And this 3 minutes is certainly worth it to reaffirm that, to say, "Hi there, Guy. Glad you're with me." That's the good part that I feel when we have that little bit of silence, and I get a lot out of it. Thank you.
The lesson, one of the lessons was that you're a messenger for God, or let me be a messenger for God. And it said basically that a messenger for God is a little bit different than an ordinary messenger, from the standpoint that the message that you receive from the Holy Spirit, or from asking what love would have me do, is first delivered to you for you, and that you need to receive that message of whatever the directions are before you can give that to anyone else. And then the other thing that they said was that the messenger for God, you just deliver the message. You don't edit it. You don't decide who really deserves to get the message, who doesn't. You just follow that inner guide, and just give that message, knowing that you don't need to know the big picture, that everything's unfolding as it's supposed to. And it's this idea of trusting uh, that your guide, the higher self, is not going to do anything that would increase your fear or another person's fear. So, you first have to receive that message. So, anyways, thank you.
I had a conversation this morning prior to this meeting with the gentleman who brought me into this work I'm doing in Africa. And we talked about spiritual things. He's getting a pre-op um, today for a surgery that's coming. And he and I have been interestingly analyzing the difference in the way we think about stuff. He has a photographic memory, and anyone who knows me knows for sure that I don't. But that doesn't make me less than, and it doesn't make me more than. It just makes me different. And we can hear and experience God's messages to us in different ways. It's funny what happened this morning, and I wanted to share that for anyone else who either thinks it's quirky on the one hand, or that's what I do on the other hand. But his name is Vernell, Vernel, and there's another L at the end of that. My brother, who is working with him, his name is Reuven, but it's spelled Revere, Reuven. And except for one letter, the letters are the same. Reuven and Vernell have almost 5 out of the 6 letters are the same. Now, to most people, that would be a comment as if I was actually saying it to my wife, and her answer might be, so what? What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything to me. And I will be quick to explain that in Jewish biblical history, going back 600 years before Jesus, in the Babylonian times, those kinds of connectivities that seem immaterial or ridiculous to certain people will be monumentally important to other people. The Hebrew word for that is gematria, which was used a lot in the early trying to understand what God was teaching. And in English, that's what we call numerology or something like that, where you change words and letters and you play around with it sometimes. And it seems like you're playing around, but then you find a connection. In terms of Vernell, who has a photographic memory, and my brother Reuven, they have a mind that, for all intents and purposes, is quite different from mine. I was always called the creative one, and Reuven's brain works like a computer. He can hold numbers in ways that I can't even imagine in his head. And I heard a display of that this morning. And Vernell was also able to follow him in the way he analyzed. I mean, how many people do you know who can say 30% of this taken from 20% of the overall and multiply that 3 times? Then you'll get what our take is, or something like that. I have to see that on a piece of paper. I have to see it and read it. But they're able to keep that in their mind and come up with solutions and conclusions that way. The solutions that I come up with and conclusions, not to be confused with confusions, I play with words, I play with letters. They keep me out of the box instead of in the box that people talk about these days. You have to think outside the box. Connections that don't make any sense on the surface sometimes give us the deepest lesson and the deepest connectivity with other people in the sense of love. And it doesn't matter how each person does that. Some people would describe me as right brain, and my brother and my partner as left brain. But that would deny them the creative imagination that they have. And we can say left brain, right brain. It's just another way of saying duality is still here. We have different ways of thinking about stuff. But I'm here to say that the creative side is no more or less valid than the linear side. And unfortunately, it has created confusion in communication, because sometimes I'll say something and it's very linear to someone, very orderly. First this, then that, then this, then that, and it all comes together. In other times, I'm all over the place, and I understand that. In retrospect, Lee has his whole life, on and off, had to tell me, Dad, stick to what you started with. And in my mind, I started with all of this. I'm just
I'm
showing you
with you,
what
Papa.
I know. This is not meant for that.
Oh, but
Other
it's a
than to
perfect
say,
example of that. You've
it
traipsed
is.
through like 16 different subjects, but we're with you. It's
There you
cool.
go. I know. Well,
It's
I think
almost like
everybody.
you're giving out poetry, buddy.
Thank you. Well, poetry is a really good example. The fact that it rhymes is almost incidental if it does, and of course, a lot of poetry doesn't. Even the stuff in this book, and there's a certain point where it starts to uh, pick up a cadence in the way you read it, and these things
I
have.
stretch to I stretch to
Mm,
make it fit in the cadence sometimes too.
yeah,
But
yep.
I think life, when life is like poetry and you see the rhymes, those are the synchronicities that point to, feels like I'm doing this right. If there are a lot of synchronicities in life, it's hard to imagine that you're doing it wrong. Like when things just miraculously kind of show up at the right time, and inevitably the right idea does. And I don't want to talk over you. Did you wrap up everything you wanted to say?
Oh, I said I turned it off, but what I said was I never wrap up, which was just going to be a joke. But
Yeah.
it's just the way it is. Sometimes I get my whole idea across, even though it takes disparate pieces from here and there, and that means something. Um, for anyone who still doesn't get what I'm trying to say, and I hope I made it clear so far, just take the number 18, which doesn't mean anything. It's just another number to most people. But in the Jewish lexicon,
Hi, what are you talking about?
huh?
Oh,
Oh,
that's a good
hi,
turn on.
yes. You got ahead of me on that one, Lee. Um, in Hebrew,
I've heard these stories before, Papa.
I know. I ordered. Lee and I actually came up with just having numbers for all these different stories, so we don't have to
Believe it
go
or not,
through it
that was
each time.
joke number 18. Yeah.
That's right. But the word chai is made up of two Hebrew letters. One of them is the 10th letter of the alphabet, and the other is the eighth. And if you add them together, you get the 18. So if someone was wanting to give a donation, he might just say, if they're talking in, let's say, hundreds of dollars, they would just say hi, and someone else would, like Lee, would be saying, "Oh, hi, how are you doing?" Not realizing that he was referring to a number. But those particular letters are
Welcome to
also
our bad jokes.
often on a necklace that you'll see that a person who is Jewish
Yeah. You've
uses to
seen that symbol. It
display.
looks a lot like pi, but it's chi.
And yeah, and then what's interesting about that particular word is that it also can be spelled, the ch sound can be spelled with ch, and chi and chai have other meanings in other languages as well. It's a sound, the chai or the chi.
It's the
Um,
energy, right?
it
That's
yeah,
beautiful.
it and it is there. if you get off of the normal way of looking at things and you see things a little bit differently, it opens you up to other ideas that may have been suppressed
Yep.
in the past but don't need to stay that way.
It's like
So,
looking through crystals, seeing different
that's the
things.
silence. Yep. All of the
Hmm.
ways that help you focus or open up the way you see things, they're all aids to being creative, to being imaginative, because God itself or himself or herself, no matter how we refer to it, is always slightly beyond our reach. Because God represents the totality of one, and each of us is a part of that one. Now, you could take that statement and meditate for a long time. God represents the one, each of us is a part of that one. God is not a part of that one. God is the one. Does that make a difference? Depends upon your way of seeing things. So these are just some random thoughts. Very random, right, Lee? And I thought I'd share them. Thanks.
Yes, yes, indeed. You brought it together really well. And I've recently realized that I make art for a living, and the stuff that I do for GE, I'm pushing pixels around, but it's really just making a custom piece of art, and that means for this kind of art, I have to put myself in the shoes of all the people that are going to use these tools to make pictures that eventually will get made into websites or tools or stuff that goes into hospitals. But it's a really bespoke kind of specific art that enables other people to create art. And it's amazing to kind of sit back and think of how these layers will get used. And I'm really working on the fundamental pieces. It's almost like I'm creating a new language, and I have to create each of the letters first when you're creating a new language before I can even make the words that'll be used to make sentences, sentences used to make paragraphs, and paragraphs used to describe these things. And so these building blocks, this is an amazingly fun puzzle to have, to get paid to solve. It's like it's it's a joy, and I have seen this joy in my work now more than I ever have in life, and I couldn't be more grateful for that. So the blessings in my life abound in 1,000 ways that I could talk about, but I do feel like a really lucky guy. I'm grateful to be here and to share my family with everybody that shows up. Janine, how are you doing? It's great that you're here too. I think the more the merrier.
Good morning. Doing great.
It's good to see
Good
you.
morning.
Hey,
How's
Bob.
life in New Jersey?
Life is good in New Jersey.
Nice, nice. Well, this happens in summer times for every church, and for a group that meets every single morning, we're bound to have some mornings where it's just up here, goofing around. And if anybody down below feels like coming up and playing, you know what I'm going to do? I'm gonna make that theme flash. I'm going to invite you all in it up anyway, so that way you can at least say hi and bye. Because I think we might have done everything we needed to do here, unless anybody's got anything else they want to share. So that's it. Sometimes when we get here at 6:37, we're going to go for 2 hours, and maybe sometimes we're just going for 45 minutes and we said everything we need to say. What do you say, sweetie? You got something? Oh, hi.
Well, I think I'm gonna share something that happened to me after the session that I already shared with Lee. But it's just a learning that I have like in order. It's funny because now that you were talking about the game with words it's all about um, reconciliation between imagination and logical. We were talking about this yesterday when Linda brought up the book from Garcia Marquez and the talk that she had with a philosopher about the relationship between imagination and I think it was the truth or something that she was discussing with this person. And that particular conversation guided me to just find a realization that love is a creative process that entails in our perception of the form, entails to go beyond our darkness and what seems to be difficulties or challenges in our lives in order to just really rearrange or transform reality or the thing that we perceive as reality, because anything is actually fixed. Everything is a consequence of your mind. So therefore, the imagination is the doorway to creation process, and the logical thinking is just observing things, and the imagination is what gives them a specific order. So, well, having that in one side, I really was thrilled to have that conversation, and after the session I understood that I have always like perceived my huge forgiveness history so far as one related to my relationship with men, and how the father they has turned to another kind of perception in my mind, and it was really uh, like apply, I mean, this kind of thought process that now applies, I don't know, to the Father's Day or whatever, it's happening in my entire life. The meaning of things, the meaning of things or words or experiences is different now because I have this tool that is A Course in Miracles. And yesterday I had this huge like, oh, and it was it felt like an expansion in my heart, because I was like, well, but I always talk about my relationship with men, like my greatest forgiveness story. And of course, because men in my life, ever since my father or whatever, gave me this huge revelation in my present that I'm one with God. But what about women? I mean, the source, I mean, a father is an aspect of the source, and the source is balance between these two concepts. So I was thinking about it, and in my Facebook feed, a memory came up from something that I did last year on the 20th of June. And it was a retreat that I took. I gave myself a retreat because I was a month away from starting the Course in Miracles, and my life had started to really have a revolution within my mind, um, and I had so many like undoings, huge undoings in my thought process, that I needed to like get away, to get in touch with nature and release myself from feelings that I had that I couldn't express at home, because my I didn't want my daughter to feel like all the yeah, the sadness and the process that I was doing. I didn't want her to see me sad or whatever. So I took a retreat that it was in a cenote in Yucatan, and it's beautiful. That place is really like a holy place, and it was a meditation process with this kind of yoga that has to do with Kundalini and all those things. And then they took us into this beautiful cenote that has a hole in the ceiling, and the rays of the sun. I mean, the sun rays. The sunlight entered the hole and enlightens all the space with this clear water. Is it was so magical. I really felt like I was uh, having like this process of rebirth. It was beautiful, and it was my reconciliation with God. That I took that as my reconciliation with God and the concept of the Father. And now, a year from that experience, I can understand that being a father or a mother is just being a reflection of an aspect of the source. And the mothers in my life, the women in my life, taught me. I didn't. I have put order in my mind about the relationship with the father, but I was like missing the key of the puzzle about the mother. So yesterday I had that huge like, this is the mothers in my life, the women in my life taught me that the father doesn't have a gender. So my part of forgiveness with my father is that my father doesn't have a gender, because the mothers, the women in my life taught me that they could be the father in my life, and they were, in fact. So I was feeling this expansion in my heart, because I said, yeah. And the men in my life taught me that I am one with God, because the huge revelation came into my life when somebody told me that, no, Adriana, you haven't understand. Your father didn't die. It's you. And my brain blown away, and I started to do all the connections, and went into buy the Course in Miracles, and I started right away. And I could clearly understand that, yeah, I mean, everything has different meaning than the one that you gave in the past. So don't get attached to your knowledge from the past. Probably I will suggest before the Course in Miracles. If you can review all the changes in your mind before and after the Course in Miracles, you can understand why Jesus Christ changed the history of humankind. Because he really, yeah, it's not that a new world was born. It's just that he gave us a new set of eyes around the things that were in front of us, and he gave us the concept of oneness, that everything is just one. And even if you see the opposites in everything that you have, or the duality in everything you have in the level of the form, it's just an aspect of a whole thing that you need to experience in order for you to go back to your home. That it's not your body, is not your gender, is not the role that you play in society, is not the identification of what your parents expects of you, or your children wants from you, or the things that you want to have in your life. It's not. None of those things are fixed in time, or are something that you will have to bear the rest of your life, because life is just an experience of the source in a rainbow way, the light in a rainbow way, if you want to see it like that. Right above you. Yeah. So I wanted to share this, because really I had this beautiful thought yesterday. Oh, of course, the mothers and the women in my life told me that the father doesn't have a gender, and the man in my life taught me that I'm one with God. And that is a beautiful, like, um, yeah, conclusion of my first understanding of this new way of living, that it's yeah, a life in oneness, in spirituality. And who knows what this adventure is going to bring into my life for the next year, the next years. But so far it's really a beautiful adventure, even if it is a scary one. I know that I need to go beyond those edges, because beyond those edges is where I can find the other meaning of things. Things are always used for different things. So you don't get attached into one form of doing things. There's always different ways. And the Holy Spirit will always put you in the right time, in the right place, with the right resources for you just to move forward with a higher plan that you don't need to know. So you need to just embrace all, and, and try not to get attached with fear.
I mean, you could do it, but it's just painful.
Yeah, and you need to go through it. Well, you do have to bother, because if you reject it, it will appear again more strongly. But if you just go in a contemplation mode through it, without getting attached of, oh my God, yeah, so you need to go through the storm in order to see again the sunshine. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I
Danny.
love that, Adriana. You have to go through the storm to see the sunshine. I love that. It's interesting you're saying what you're saying. I had an epiphany yesterday. Guess I could call it an epiphany. I don't know the exact definition of it, but that's what it feels like.
I love that
Because,
word. It sounds like it's going to
yeah,
be perfect. Let's
it's
hear
a
it.
great word, right? And
Yeah.
I was in a clubhouse room that I guess it was slightly younger. Just a lot of interesting things happened yesterday. And it just felt like the people were talking really fast to me. And I'm like, why are they talking so fast? Like, why are they talking like this? And I realized later it was a slightly younger room. And I'm like, wow, I guess that's what it feels like when you realize you're getting a little older. I guess that's what it is. I don't know. Or
Well,
it was the
I mean, I
frequency of the
read
room, maybe.
slow, but I read slow because we're reading deep stuff. Maybe they're
I
speaking fast because they're speaking shallow stuff.
maybe I realized, and I said, Jenny, that it was just a different frequency in that room. And they even asked
That's a
the
really wonderful way of putting it.
yeah,
Very
it was so
non-judgmental. A different frequency is perfect. I love that.
yeah, truly. And then they looked at the woman that asked me, the mod. She said, well, who's that in the picture with you? And I asked, and I had said, it's my guy, it's my man, Bernard, and everything. She said, well, I asked because it was just Father's Day, and it might be. And I'm thinking, oh God, does he look like my father? Like, I said, what?
That's projection.
Like,
That's their
yeah,
projection.
yeah. And I said, oh, well, maybe that's how she sees it. I don't know, but to me,
He
he
gives
doesn't
off
look
really
like.
good Steve Harvey vibes.
My daughter said that. My daughter thinks he looks like Steve Harvey, and he's kind of a comedian like that too. He says really funny stuff. So, but
That's
and
totally
he's
a positive.
it is, it is. I think he's more handsome than Steve Harvey personally, but hey, I'm biased. Um, and then I just had really a day of contemplation where I was laying around a lot. I just took the day off, kind of a lot's going on with my uncle. A lot of big decisions need to be made in terms of where we are going to send him after discharge from the hospital. He's in Vassar Brothers Hospital in Poughkeepsie, New York, and they were starting to get a little pokey. The nurse manager would call me, a social worker, palliative care doctor. Somebody was calling me every day. And at first, they were kind of like, let me know what he was and how he's doing, and but kind of like nudging me, okay, like you got to make a decision. One woman was almost a little bit rude. So I was just taking all this in and just dealing with the idea of this magnificent, intelligent, amazing man being just nothing like he was. He's really confused a lot of the time. They call it pleasantly confused. That's what I used to read in charts when I was coding. And I'm like, what does that mean? I think that was the term, pleasantly confused. Because he would smile, but he didn't know what's going on. And he had some lucid moments. And in those lucid moments, I just drank it in when our friend Charlie was up there. His friend was in the room and he was having one of these lucid moments. So he gave us the phone and we talked to him. This was a few days ago now. And he had a breakthrough moment. And that was really a beautiful, beautiful moment. I thank God for that moment. But I know it was just temporary because he's at stage 4 with this cancer. So even though I know what I know, um, it was just still hard to see. And even one of the nurses had said, well, I think it was at the nursing home though. These older people is getting older. I'm like, no, you didn't see who he was even just a month ago. This is not just an older person. He was just as sharp or sharper than any young person. And just taking all this in because it happened so rapidly. Um, I just decided to just crash. I just crashed all day long. I even ordered food for my mom. She had fruit for breakfast. She made her own fruit bowl, and I something just came over me last night about the course and lessons, and it just all came through me that this Holy Spirit works through me, is one with me. Uh, the world as I see it is my perception of the world, and I can create with the Holy Spirit because I'm one with the Holy Spirit. I'm not separate. And I started getting this tingling in my body. Um, I had so many thoughts. I wish I could relay them all to you, but a lot of the ideas we've learned in the course just came through as, oh, this is real. This is life. This is me. I have this power. I have this beauty inside of me, the ability to shift my life in the direction I want to, in the way I want to see it. Um, I just started feeling really good. I decided I'm going to have a good sleep. I had a good sleep last night. Um, I experienced a real shift. So I'm grateful for that. And I didn't hear everything you said, Adriana, because somebody had rung the doorbell. But I feel amazing. Even my body feels more like like limber because I see it as healthy. I really know it's healthy. Um, I just wanted to share that with
I love
you,
that. Thank you.
and I
That's
feel
wonderful.
amazing.
It's
Yeah,
like
thank you.
losing fear of death, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's just like I shed something. Something just shone through me. Holy
You know, on
Spirit
an
just
hour
came
by hour
through.
basis, that's wonderfly close to God. That's a great way to spend a Sunday. I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
Lee, you just took on an echo. That was interesting.
There's a couple of
And
us, man.
what's funny about it too, I heard your echo. It made you more powerful, like, oh.
It's the Wizard of Oz.
Adriana's got my back.
Yes. And it's interesting. I didn't
Did you
do
do it again?
He will get powerful through me because it was my mic open who gives the voice of God in him.
Ooh, I like it. I like it. But it's interesting because I didn't do my usual Sunday stuff. Like I usually listen to, my the sermon at my New Thought Church, and I have my mom sit there. It was I just let it flow yesterday. And sometimes you have to do that. You just have to go against the routine and just do something different. And it's amazing what can happen.
Yeah, it is, and I found some interesting synchronicity in something that I heard yesterday in this podcast that I follow that I always bring up when I can. The Buddha at the gas bump. They do interviews for regular people that has experiences of enlightenment. I mean, it's beautiful because it's more like 600 of people interviewed that are not like huge famous people, but it's people that have worked their lives through spirituality in different kind of perspectives. And it's funny because all of them, it doesn't matter if it is people working with angels, people working with energy from people that had died, or people just reading A Course in Miracles and changing their lives, or whatever. They all comes to the very same conclusion, that it's all about overcoming fear, forgiveness, and bringing the consciousness into the oneness concept, and that the science as well, it's coming near to that communion with spirituality in in that very same sense, through quantum physics and all those things. It's such a great podcast. And yesterday I was hearing about a woman that was even a lawyer, and she went to the army, and she was like human this human being, and she lost her son. And after that she switched her life to a spiritual path, and she's so powerful around it. And she said so many things that are related with the concept of A Course in Miracles. And one of the good the kind of uh, uh yeah, coincidence that huge coincidence that I took notes about is that she works with a process from the shamanic the shamanic knowledge from the Peruvian indigenous people. And she works with people to go through like this she call it this she call it, or they call it, the circle of healing. And she explained that we all in our life have to go a path where you are like the serpent, that you need to shed the skin, and the skin is your past. The skin is your past, so you first detach from the past, and then you go to the east, to the west, I guess, to the west. Yeah, you go then to go to the west. You go down to shed the skin, that is your past. Then you go to the west, that is the jaguar, where you heal the death. Heal the death is just heal all the thought process that you have, or belief systems that you have around death, being fearful. So you first overcome the fear to death, and then you go to the east like a hummingbird, because now that you overcome the thoughts of that as a fearful thing, and you detach from the past, now you get to fly into your soul journey. You will find your soul journey after you go through this process in order to go up like an eagle, to have a higher perspective on life. And that's how you get to overcome any huge grievance in the world. And she was so good about it in that sense, because it's really how my own process with A Course in Miracles, and what you just said, Janine, it's also expressing the same concepts. We have been all the way until today, or for example, in my case, this is the first time that I do the text, the lessons of the book. So for me, this entire process has been like that. I have been detaching from my past, from the constructs of the mind that I had, and finding new meaning in everything, to heal my fears, to heal my fear of death, or my own edges, because I was so fixated in a specific way of being that I stopped being. It's like you stop being a human being because you just connected with human doing. I was just doing things instead of human being. So it's a very beautiful process that we are going through these lessons, because it's really undoing the entire world that you thought you create, that you thought you have, and that you created, that you didn't even know that you created, in order for you to, just to have a higher perspective on your presence in this moment, and being okay with whatever it was and whatever it will be and what is going on right now. It's beautiful.
I feel reborn. I feel really light. I know I'm different.
Beautiful. Yes.
Yeah, it's
True.
a knowing, and it's I just cannot wait to run out the door and start the
It's your
day.
own baptism.
Yeah, all these ideas are just flowing to me, through me. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. So,
I feel
and
the
it's funny
same
we had
way.
this.
It's so cool. I'm so
Do you
happy people
really?
are.
And then see, and it's like we're all connected, and it's so interesting, Adriana. You're having these similar feelings, and it makes sense that we're connected. I get how that we're connected, and ah, can't even put into words. I'm not. I wish I was better. I'm gonna start writing stuff as it comes to me, and then I'll be able to put it
That
together
is the
better for you
trick.
guys.
That is the trick of discovering your voice, because your voice flows through your writing so much better than it does. That's why, like, when I read Tom's in the morning, if I was expounding, it would never, I don't think it would ever work. But he gives me, it's almost like having a runway, a safe, big, wide runway, and you can just floor it and let God take off kind of through you. It sets yourself up for success by stating your own ideas in black and white so that you can focus on the ones that are most important. It helps you hold your vision. Tom talks about it in a whole variety of ways, and it's dad. My dad, my whole life has told me you've got to write down your ideas so that you can look at them. You can't reflect on them if you literally can't look at them in black and white. It hones it like
Great
sharpening
point.
a knife.
Great point. And I've been working. Actually, I've been working on scripting with Andy in her room, but to actually do it. Hello, Janine. Do it. Like I'm
And you
going
could
to
do it in a
go.
bullet point. You could do it on a
Yes.
post-it note. It doesn't have to be something you frame. I mean,
Not at
literally,
all.
this is a tool for you. Yeah, yeah.
And I have a
Use this
million
tool.
journals. I have an iPad. I have a
You
lot
got
of
your phone.
my
You can make it an
phone,
audio note,
audio
and you
note.
have
I've
but
done
you got to
that.
see it in black and white eventually.
and you have the replay, so you can hear yourself in this process that you have been going through. You have the
You're
replays, and
already
you can
succeeding.
find your own participations easily in Clubhouse, because you can move forward on up until you see your picture, and those are your interventions. So you have really good material to work on.
So true. So true.
And words are important because words have many words for each person have very special meaning for them, which wouldn't necessarily transfer to anybody else if you said the same thing. And that's why it's important for you to write down your thoughts and your words, because when you get your words down with the meaning that you bring to them, um, that makes it more personal and more to your core. When Adriana talks about how she was deluded into thinking about men without gender, um, that's a very powerful visual message that is erroneous, and yet it it's very personal to her, and she has to work out of that. Someone else might say, "Oh, that's ridiculous," look at any man, but well, that was probably not the best answer. But anyway, um, here's what I wanted to say about that. I kind of opened up some of this talk by saying God is but love, and therefore so am I. That's what the lesson says. But I said, what if we said God is but one, and therefore so am I? Well, a mathematician would say, excuse me, but if God is but one, there can't be another. And they would say, from the point of view of mathematics, that don't work. So when you say God is but love, and therefore so am I, it changes that one word, changes everything. Because love, on the one hand, is two people joining together, two people partnering, two people feeling the same feeling together, or in some cases, the same feeling but felt differently. But it is a joining of things. So if we think about it that way, and you say, God is but love, God is completely together. Each of us is a piece of that. And each of us, therefore, holographically thinking, also is one. But maybe we're not quite one yet. That's what we're working on. So the difference between us and God here, just in terms of this sentence, is He's already got it all together. That, and then the statement says, and therefore so am I. Oh, I'm also love. Well, at the level of understanding that I am, I can then be all together. And you go through that phase for a while. Then all of a sudden something happens, and all of a sudden you're not together, and you need to pull yourself together with more information than what you had before. And that's the way these lessons are all set up. There's 365 of them. So we change, in some cases a lot, some cases a little, by a particular lesson. The experiment we did this morning, that only a few of us know about at this point, but it's going to be recorded, so it's going to be available, is putting more emphasis on silence, on the silence of going inside and finding out what that is. And I noticed that Russell came in just a little while ago. And Russell is the guy who has a strong background in Joel Goldsmith. And Joel Goldsmith said a lot of these same kinds of things in his way. Who even knew who Joel Goldsmith was?
Man, you sound
Um,
fascinating, Russell. Holy cow. Will you come up and talk to us? I'd love to hear what you got to
uh,
say if you've got anything you want to share. I mean, we're just
yeah,
we're just chilling out here, you know.
yeah, Russell. If you have Tom, you probably
And Tom, yeah, I know Tom's got
are.
stuff he's got to do today
Oh,
too. So, but
okay, good. Well, Russell, if you'd like to just kind of take a few minutes and let us know the difference that you see between Joel Goldsmith. That's where I was going, but I don't have to. Russell knows a lot more about him. Um, he was a brilliant. I'm going to stop right there. Russell, if you can
oops.
come up, please do. Otherwise, I'm going to turn this over to Tom, since you said that, Lee, that Tom has something for us. So I'm going to let it go in. Um,
And that's okay too. You know, we've got rainbows all around this house today. My mom painted this painting with all these balloons from an art explosion back in 1999. It's right behind Adriana on the wall. If you see the video that's behind her, but we've got that. We've got a prism that sends a rainbow throughout the house in the mornings, and we've got a ton to be grateful for. And so I hope you guys have a wonderful Tuesday, summer day, and get a lot of stuff done, fun or work, whatever. I I just got some wonderful inspiration sitting here. I'm working on an intranet for Beacon Hill Staffing. It's in this nationwide staffing company, and I I just part of my job today is to do something called creating personas. I've done 3 weeks worth of interviews and gotten a good sense of what the company needs in an intranet, a website just dedicated to them for their stuff that organizes their stuff, makes it easy for them to find stuff, makes it easier for them to create to-do lists for other people and organize where all the paperwork is, and their staffing companies across the country, so they have different laws for every state and a whole bunch of little details that I'm going to organize nicely for them. But the persona part, it's one of these great chances to get creative and to create 6 prototypical personalities. And I'm going to make them lighthearted. And I'm not going to use photos. A lot of times people use photos, but people can judge photos really quickly. So I'm going to use illustrations. I'm going to find some way to make these illustrations dance and in a creative way. So I may find some paintings. We can animate classical paintings in certain ways, but something is going to come through, and it's going to be an artistic way to present these people so that we can show how we're going to solve the problems for them through these people. These personas are the things that we hang our use cases around, that we define what we're going to make. And so the new person who's just joining the company, I've got my first name is Wide-Eyed Willie. I think that might be a little too silly, but I'll have something that is new and lighthearted who's joining the company, and they go through the onboarding process. You know, there's it's a fun way to kind of bring my work to life and bring art into my work, and to make my work a work of art. And I get paid for it, you know, which is a huge blessing. I just feel more and more every day. I get a if I look at my work the way that I feel best about it, it's that I get paid to make art for other people that help them do stuff or accomplish stuff or whatever. But I hope you all have a chance to do something like that today and feel fulfilled with whatever you do. Have a wonderful day.
Let's get into human being instead of human doing, because in human being is where the creative process happens.
Yes.
So let's
You
get
know,
what?
sorry,
Go.
Adriana, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Since Lee was talking about work, another thing came through me because I decided, you know what? I want to work. I want to go back to work because I enjoy flipping, but I need more, a little more flow in my life. And I used to be, I don't know if you all know what a medical records coder is.
Oh, I
That's what,
know. I know.
yeah,
That's a
that's,
tough job for so many people. But
yeah,
if it's your bailiwick, it feels like you're sailing and you're flying when you're in there and you're in your zone, right?
yeah, it's so easy to me. Like I was, my bachelor's BS is in health information management, and I did
Mm.
supervision and management, but coders can get paid more than managers.
Yeah,
So
yeah. If you're good at it, oh my gosh.
yeah, and right
Do
now
you want to
they're,
explain it at a high level? I can tell you if you can tell me if I'm wrong,
yeah,
but I think in general it's like you've got to go through doctor's notes and a whole bunch of other stuff and assign numerical values so that they can charge money for stuff. And it takes a whole bunch of knowledge about a whole bunch of different stuff to be able to sort through it and figure out what goes with what and what counts. And is that even anywhere close?
that's it. And it
Okay.
numerically identifies diagnoses and procedures, and for so that it can be represented for billing and also for medical documentation and study. It helps with research and everything.
This
So it
is
helps
coming
me
up in my work at GE. We've got a one
really.
interface where it shows a timeline of each of the different types of things that go on, and they're coded into 6 different categories. So a doctor at a glance can see the last 6 years, and there's a little point along the timeline for each of these 6 different things, and they're coded down to a big chart. And so it filters out the chart really quickly, and you can see all of the oncology or all of the um, different types of medicines that we're given and what cadence they're at, and kind of zoom into certain areas. It's a cool interface, like from a UI perspective. And my job in UX, it's fascinating and a great way to put a ton of information in a tiny little space so that you can get, the the 3 mile up view. Sometimes I talk about the 50,000 foot view, but this is like a wonderful way to pack a ton of info into a small space.
It is. Indeed it is. And just on one patient you'll have, I don't know, 5, 6 to 10, how many codes, and then everything is in those codes. And I was very good at it, and I let it go, but coding has changed. Now they're up to ICD-10, it's called. So I'm going to have to go get recertified, meaning I have to go get some new training, get the book, and go through a little bit of coursework. But I'm excited about it. I guess I went away from it because you're sitting at a desk all day and looking at a screen, and my vision was failing a little bit. I just started wearing stronger and
Now
stronger
you can sit at
glasses.
home with your 55-inch TV and put it up there really big for yourself. You can do
Yeah,
it from home.
I like
You can
that
do it from the beach. You
idea.
can do it anywhere.
Yeah, I like the idea of blowing it up big because back in the day it was you couldn't do that. It was on
Yeah, I
regular
use a big one like
computer
that.
monitor.
That's what I do. It's good for me.
Yeah. So that's what I'm doing, and that's what I'm going to be doing. So very interesting stuff, and I'm excited about it. And the idea came through someone else, because I had been meditating and praying about it. So God sent me my friend who said, "Hey, it's like, hey, why don't you? Didn't you do X, Y, Z? And why don't you just do that?" And I'm like, yeah, because I was going to go back to school for nursing. I was going to do this. I was going to do that, and
And you
I
don't have
don't
to
have
do
to
it full
reinvent
time
the
either.
wheel.
There's a
What did you
lot
say?
of, you don't have to do it full time either. Like once you get in there, you
No.
can do it as much or as little as you want. That's definitely a flexibility with that job. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yes. So that's what's going on with me, a little snippet there.
All right. Well, we'll be heading your way weekend after next, and I'm going to sit down with a calendar. I keep telling Adriana that I'm going to, and she keeps laughing at me. But and figure out my trip, because we're going to head south. But I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks, Christine, down the bottom. I know you've been here the whole time. I hope you're having a wonderful day too. Bye, everybody.
Right, a great day.
Bye, bye, bye.
Namaste.
Namaste. We love you. And Janine, we'll
Love
see
you
you soon.
too.
Bye, bye.